Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of Mocktail Minutes. This is Bailey.
And this is Brianna.
This week I am drinking a horchata. What is it called? Horchata latte? Protein coffee. Oh my gosh.
Nice. Is
From
that
the
from?
Roasted Purpose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it good? I like horchata.
Yes. I think I've done this one before on here, but it smells like the cinnamon roll icing.
Ooh, that sounds good. That
Yeah.
sounds good. I tried something new today. It's sparkling water kefir, like the kefir that
Yeah.
has like probiotics. Well, it's like in a sparkling water drink. It's some like local company. It kind of tastes like kombucha. I got the guava. It's better than whatever one I did have because I got two of them. The other one that I had, I was like, I can't drink it. This one is okay. It does taste like alcohol though. So I feel like if you want to trick yourself into being like, I'm drinking alcohol, some people like that.
Get a little buzz.
I think this will do the trick. But it's by Buddha's Brew, and it's sparkling kefir. Kefir. I don't know how to say that. I say
Everyone
kefir.
says it differently. I say
I know.
kefir.
It's like quinoa.
Yes.
Quinoa.
I listen to some podcasts and they'll say a word and I'm like, huh, am I saying it wrong this whole
I
time?
know.
Are you saying it wrong?
I'm like, huh, am I doing that? Because I'm just gonna go with it. I've noticed that more with like semaglutide. Some people call it,
Yeah,
or
smagled.
semaglutide. And I was like, well, I guess you could say it like that.
Oh,
Semaglutide.
yeah.
Whatever.
Like I'm pronouncing that in illiterate. I just have never looked at the pronunciation of things.
Yeah, I'm like, so I call it kefir.
Mhm. But it could be a thing like caramel. Are you caramel or are you caramel?
Oh, I say caramel.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Or
It's like
again.
I say aunt and not aunt.
Oh, I say aunt.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of words out there that we say differently. And my power went out, so we're having some technical difficulties, but we're back and we're going to see how this goes.
Yeah. We're gonna keep on writing it out. It'll be good.
We are talking about insulin resistance today. It's a very hot topic right now, and we are seeing it in so many of our patients slash clients. I don't, what do you call them?
I do both. Like I say clients if they're like self-pay, and I say patients if they're like insurance, which is I don't think there's a rule for that, but that's what I do.
I was just curious. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of people, especially those that have weight loss resistance, who are also having insulin resistance. I mean, I haven't looked at the statistics, but I would say insulin resistance is definitely increasing.
Oh yeah. I don't even think we have good statistics because it's not something that's like regularly screened or like
That is true.
tested for. So, I mean, it's similar to like the diabetes statistics, right? Like we have a general like, oh, how many people have pre-diabetes, but there's so many people that are never screened for it. So it's like, well, there's probably more. But for those of you, I think we've touched on it a couple of times, but we never really like dived in. Insulin resistance is basically your body not listening to insulin as effectively as it should be. And this
Mhm.
usually happens like 10 to 15 years before you even have pre-diabetes. So most of the time people come to me and they're like, "Oh, my doctor took my fasting glucose and like it was totally fine." And they just think like that's the same thing, or it was just a little bit elevated, but my A1C looks good, so it's fine. And I'm always like, you need a fasting insulin
Yes.
because that measures how much insulin is floating around in your body after you've been fasting. So if you're fasting, there shouldn't be a lot because insulin doesn't
Mhm.
really have a job it needs to be doing if you haven't eaten. So,
Yes. So yeah, basically when you eat carbs, your body is breaking that down into glucose, enters the bloodstream, and that's when your pancreas releases insulin to signal to your cells to absorb that glucose. So when this insulin resistance is happening, cells are not responding properly, and the pancreas will actually compensate by producing more insulin. Over time, this is what's then going to affect those blood glucose levels. So that's why if you look at the insulin, you can determine what's going on so much sooner.
yeah. And if you were to get like a normal fasting insulin, the ranges I think are anywhere between like 10 and 22 or 2 and 22 or 2 and I've even seen like 25. I would say optimal, it should be under 10, like for sure. And I like to see it even under 7. So I feel like something between a 4 and a 7 would be great. Anything over a 7, there's some sort of insulin resistance going on. And for sure, anything under or anything over a 10, you have insulin resistance. And so if you're someone who has been really struggling to lose weight, or you just feel like you're tired all the time, or I mean, I feel like I'm just saying things that a lot of people have. But if you have a fasting insulin that's over 10, even over 7, there's some sort of insulin resistance going on, and that is going to impact how much you are able or how easily you are able to lose weight. So a lot of people are thinking like, okay, well, how do I reverse insulin resistance? And I have seen a couple of things going around that's like you can like, reverse it within weeks to a couple of months. And I think that's a little bit misleading. Like you can improve your insulin sensitivity in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but to actually reverse insulin resistance, it's going to take like probably 6 to 12 months to see like a significant change, depending on how much stuff you're
That,
doing and how consistent.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of thinking about the flexibility versus focus. If you're more focused in doing more of the things, not, and again, we talk about all this all the time. Like, you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be 100%, but if you're fixing three things rather than one thing and being really consistent with those three things, you're going to see results quicker.
Yeah.
So it does take time. And of course, that's always the most frustrating part, but you have to keep going because insulin resistance is really going to cause a lot of downstream effects, especially on your metabolic health.
Mhm.
And so, really, I guess backing up a little bit, insulin resistance, like what causes it? Sometimes
Yeah.
like it just happens. It's genetics, it's lifestyle, it's environmental factors. But
Mhm.
things like excess body fat, especially that visceral or abdominal fat, it's going to lead to more insulin resistance. So that's also something like when people are working to lose weight and they have a bunch of excess weight, it's going to be harder to get, not harder, what am I trying to say here? You're going to have higher insulin levels just because you have that excess abdominal fat. So as you
Yes.
lose weight, that's also going to help.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that right?
Yes. And I feel like that's what doctors tell you to do. Like, for the most part, doctors aren't really touching it. Some of them are. And then when they do, they're like, lose weight, it'll improve. But I feel like that's kind of frustrating because it's like, well, I'm having a hard time losing weight because I have insulin resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, but yes, if you lose some of that excess body fat, you will be more insulin resistance or more insulin sensitive just as a whole. Other things that cause it are physical inactivity. So being sedentary, high intake of refined carbs, sugars, processed foods, especially in large amounts. And then hormone imbalances, like like estrogen dominance, or even like PCOS. So PCOS, one of the things that happens is you are just insulin resistant, which is why we see so many women that have PCOS are struggling with weight loss. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen this constantly, like doctors being like, metformin due to insulin resistance caused by PCOS. And then I'm like, oh, what's your fasting insulin? They're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, so they're just assuming it's happening, but you don't have anything to measure to be like, oh, this is what I was at baseline. Is this medication helping? Or these interventions helping? And I will say, maybe aside from the PCOS, you did not get here overnight. You did not get insulin resistance because you stopped working out for 3 months and you've been eating more fast food. No, this is like a long time, and it's a combination of a lot of these lifestyle factors. So that's why I tell people it's going to take a little bit of time. Like your fasting insulin did not go up to a 15 because you just like didn't work out this summer.
Yeah. Or it's not because like Easter, like desserts from there. No, it's going to be a combination of a bunch of different things. So, I mean, yeah, there's a couple different causes there for it. But yeah, like, did you mention stress or sleep?
No, I didn't. I was
That's
right
another
there.
big one, which surprises a lot of people that stress affects your blood sugar. And now, I mean, we've been working with a lot of people using CGMs, and people are literally seeing that happen. And it's so funny because everyone's like, you said this, but now, now
Yeah.
I can see it. And I'm like, I promise I have not been lying to you. Like,
Yeah.
it's science. It's there. I've also seen it happen for myself. But stress causes blood sugar fluctuation. So stress and poor sleep can lead to insulin resistance as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not just to be like, oh, if your sleep sucks, you're going to be insulin resistant. Like that's where we find the balance in finding, okay, what can we control at this point? And even speaking of like CGMs, So I've had a lot of questions like, how can I tell if I'm insulin resistant based on my CGM readings? So
Mhm.
I wouldn't say you could just like diagnose insulin resistance from a CGM. But I mean,
No.
there are some things that you could look at, like what are your spikes? Are you fluctuating? Sometimes, like if people aren't fluctuating a lot with meals, it could be like a sign of insulin resistance, or it could look like large glucose spikes
Yeah.
after a meal. It could look like a slow return to baseline after you eat. It could look like just elevated fasting glucose. That's what I commonly see, or
Yeah.
just a high average glucose. So, and also thinking too, I mean, when we eat carbs, you're going to have a spike. I mean, carbs are breaking down to sugar. But if you're eating like a quarter cup of beans, which are high in fiber, high in protein, with chicken and avocado and bell peppers, like a taco bowl type thing, and you're spiking like 60,
Yeah.
then it's probably insulin resistance, because I would say that's a disproportionate spike to a smaller amount of carbs.
hmm Yeah, that's what I would say too. And like you said, kind of you're just kind of hanging out a little bit higher. Like I'm never really dropping under 120. Now that's not a perfect, diagnosis. Like if you have a CGM to like, oh my gosh, I have insulin resistance, like get it tested. Your doctor can order it. You can
It's
order
a
it
science
online
to
for
look at.
$15. Like it's very accessible. But I would say using a CGM can help you be very strategic. And then if you know you have insulin resistance, I'm encouraging you to wear it at least a month, especially for females, because your blood sugar is more susceptible to certain things at different times of the month. Like in your luteal phase, it's a lot more sensitive. So then you're
Hmm.
able to see, like, okay, what do I know stresses me out? Like, does that cup of coffee in the morning send me to 130? I
Yeah.
probably need to figure that out. Does staying up late make me do this the next day? Okay, I need to figure that out. Like, because then you have that tangible in your face, like feedback where you're like, okay, I can't really BS myself anymore. This is what's happening. But then it also shows you, okay, this is what I need to be doing. And if you are insulin resistant or having weight loss resistance, I think it's frustrating to be like, I don't know, I feel like I'm doing all the right things. So when you have these key times throughout the day, it's like, okay, that's what I need to focus on, because insulin resistance affects weight loss because it increases fat storage. And then if you already have high
Hmm.
body fat, you're becoming more insulin resistant, and it's like this perfect little storm, and it makes it really difficult to get out of. So,
And like we mentioned, insulin resistance is going to affect weight loss. We know so many of our listeners here have questions about weight loss. So we definitely wanted to touch on this because it's pertinent information to you.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
number one, elevated insulin is going to promote that fat storage, like we talked about. Insulin is an anabolic hormone, meaning it encourages energy storage. So when insulin is
Mhm.
high, your body goes into that like fat storage mode. Of course, it's going to be hard to lose weight if you're in fat storing mode.
Yeah.
Other thing, so then, I mean, along with that, it's going to reduce fat burning, because
Mhm.
insulin resistance prevents the body from like more efficiently accessing fat stores, and it's going to increase your hunger and cravings. So if you're having more blood sugar spikes and crashes, this is going to lead to that like hanger type feeling. So we get into that cycle of overeating, undereating. That's what I often see, where I mean, I really don't see a lot of times where we're overeating at every meal. It's more like we're undereating, overeating,
Yeah.
overeating lots of snacks. That's kind of what the
Yes.
day looks like. And then it's
100%.
before bed, when you're more resistant already as it is, so you're not processing those carbs well, and now you just increased them by a ton at one time.
Exactly. And then you fall into just like that cycle. And so I think hearing this, you're like starting to put a couple of things together. Like, ooh, this affects it, this affects it, this affects it. This is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. It's like, oh, okay, this makes sense. It also kind of impacts how your body builds muscle. So if you have some insulin resistance, you could be, potentially losing lean muscle mass. We store sugar in the muscle, but we need our cells to be listening to insulin to let that sugar into our muscles. So if it's not getting there, you're not feeding your muscles. And then that loss of muscle mass gives you even worse blood sugar
Mhm.
management. And then the other thing it does is it causes leptin resistance. So basically that hormone that tells your brain, like the hormone in your gut that tells your brain, oh, I'm full, I've had enough. You're not able to listen that very much. So there's impaired satiety signaling, which means you will overeat in a sitting because you're like, oh, I don't feel full yet. And so
Mhm.
overeating carbs, you're going to store a lot of that. Your body's already having an easier time storing it. So it's just like this perfect storm, if you will. So
Yes.
do we want to kind of like drop a couple of things that'll help with reversing insulin resistance?
Yeah, I think just to kind of give you guys a starting point, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously these are things that we work on with people, and we, with my dietitian, whoa, formerly Metabolism Makeover, we are working to kind of dive more into the blood sugar balancing pieces. We recently just ran a group that used CGMs. And so it's been really fun to kind of use those and just overall look at different strategies that are helping different people and seeing how people's blood sugar reacts differently to different foods too. So
Mhm.
it is something we help with, but overall, looking at your carb and protein balance is super important. And do you want to talk more about this, like the ratio of carbs and protein? We
Yeah. And this is like generalized. So I feel like, different
yeah.
people do better with different things. But I would say if oh, I have some pretty severe insulin resistance, I would say matching your carb and protein intake at a meal, like a 1-to-1 ratio, is very helpful. Now, don't do that if you're having 10 grams of protein at your meal. Like I'm talking, we're having 30 plus grams of protein at a meal. So I'm going to match that 30 plus grams of carbs. Some people can get away with like a 2-to-1 ratio. I would say that's like a less severe insulin resistance. You're also working out. That's the thing, like you're lifting heavy, so you need more of those carbs. But
Hmm.
using a CGM to see like what is my carb tolerance? Because, like you said, I mean, some people are having increases with just like 20 grams of carbs. That doesn't mean just take all the carbs out. You have to teach your body to be like how to be carb tolerant. So that's where you're choosing the really high fiber carbs. You're making sure you have protein at your meal. You're making sure you have a healthy fat because fat is it really blunts that glucose absorption. So thinking like, okay, what are my carb quality? I'm going to be cutting out a lot of that processed food, a lot of the fast food. We'll be trying to do like those whole food sources of carbs that are high in fiber.
Hmm.
So that's
And
what
I
I
would
would
say
say.
carbs are kind of like one of the top things that really do adjust based on your workouts. If you have
Yeah.
thyroid issues, if you do have insulin resistance, if you are in midlife area. Like there's so many different factors
Yeah.
that I adjust carbs with, where protein I would say is a little bit different because it's kind of more based on your size.
Mm-hmm.
And fiber, I mean, at least 25 grams. Everyone needs that. Fat, minimum of 60 grams. I think that's where carbs get a little bit tricky because there's so many factors to consider. And even when we have guidelines of how people usually do best, it's
We don't
not always
know.
what we
Yeah.
need either. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. It depends.
And so,
And the different kind of carbs too. Like some people do great with stuff like popcorn because it has a little bit of fiber in it. Other people, horrible. I'm one of those people. Popcorn's not great. I'm not going to be doing popcorn, especially by itself.
or like
So
pita
it's like,
chips.
yeah, yes, that's a good one. Like, they're healthy. I'm doing the healthy choice. So like, well, it's relevant. Like the healthy is relevant. Depends. Like, what does your body need? And so that's why I just try to tell people, like, okay, really just look at your carb quality. The high fiber ones will be better. Fiber does help with that natural GLP-1 production in the gut. So
Mhm.
that can help you out too. Yeah, we have to be looking at food quality, carb quality. I would say the next one is resistance training. That's like a non-negotiable. That's just it.
Mhm.
You have to be lifting weights because your muscle is your storage, is your glucose storage. So you need that more. The more muscle you have, the more that you're really working towards building and maintaining that muscle. Those little receptors, you start to build more receptors on your cell. So if you're having a hard time listening to insulin, the best thing you could do is increase the amount of things listening for insulin, if that makes sense. So you start to use it better.
Yeah. So Kara's like our queen of blood sugar
Yeah.
on my dietitian team. And she brought up just like glucose likes to have a job. And so I love saying that and telling people that. It's like glucose just needs a job. Carbs
Mhm.
aren't bad. Sugar isn't just like bad for you. I mean,
No.
okay, that's another rabbit hole, but things aren't bad. But
It
you
wants to
need
do its
carbs.
job. It has a really important
Yes.
function in the body. Yeah.
Give it a job, give it muscles to work with, and it's going to love that job. It doesn't
Mhm.
love just hanging out and being there.
No, it wants to be doing stuff. I love that because
Mhm.
then it helps to like not demonize carbs because carbs are great.
Yeah.
If you pull them out too much, you're going to have the same issue. So I try to tell people that like you have to find a balance, but building that
Hmm.
muscle really gives glucose a job. We can go into a rabbit hole about cardio. We really could, but I would say if you have insulin resistance, I would just really encourage walking after meals. Like if that's the only cardio you could do, great. Try to do it after meals because then you're giving glucose a job.
Hmm.
Using your muscles, glucose is like, ooh, I can go over here. Great. 2 to 5 minutes. This doesn't have to be crazy. I would love it if you were doing 5 to 10, walking, doing air squats, cleaning up your kitchen, doing something. But when you just sit there, eat, don't move, it's harder for your body to utilize those nutrients. And if you are already struggling, you want to do everything that you can to give it a help, just to help it out. So movement after
Yeah.
meals as your cardio.
And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to change my clothes, get my tennis shoes on type of thing. Like you can literally do the dishes. I
Mhm.
mean, that will be helpful. You could do some air squats, just something to move your body. And also, like, you don't have to walk in tennis shoes. I went on a walk last night in sandals. I
Me
mean,
too.
actually, it was kind of like a calf workout in some way because my calves were hurting.
Because you're like trying to keep them on your feet. Yeah, I did that last night too. I was like, wow.
Yeah. And then it was so windy. I was like resistant training with it because I was pushing Gannon in the stroller. So I came back. First of all, why are you in flip-flops? And why are you out of breath? Like you do this walk all the time. I'm like, okay, but it's windy and I have my flip-flops on
I'm trying to
and
keep my shoes.
I'm pushing 30 pounds in front of me. Like,
Yeah.
ugh,
Yeah. Movement. I love it. And I like that you bring that up because I think that's a barrier. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to get ready for a walk. I'm like, well, then don't. Just go.
don't. I walk, I mean, my hair's down, blowing in my face.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have jeans. And yeah, I get that's not for everyone, but like you have to choose your heart. Either you're gonna be a little uncomfy in your jeans and get the walk in, or it'll literally take you 30 seconds to change your pants.
Yeah. And I'm not saying go for 30 minutes, like just around the block. Okay. It'll be okay. Improved sleep and stress management. Those two are a non-negotiable. And again, you see it when you're wearing a CGM because it's like, oh, your movement could be perfect, your meals could be perfect. If your stress management is not regulated, you will have high blood sugar regardless of your meals and your movement. You have to really work on that cortisol and make sure you're not just riding cortisol all day long. And then sleep, I would say 7+ hours of sleep. There is some supplements that you can use. I don't know if we'll go into that. Maybe we'll do a different episode on that. But that's very much like I recommend working with someone if you're like, is this a good supplement for
Mhm.
me?
That's why, yeah. I mean, I don't think we need to go into supplements. Just know that there are some supplements out there that can be helpful. So, yes, work with someone. And also, like, you have to do these other foundational pieces. You're not going to out supplement your
Yes.
insulin resistance.
No, you're not going to out supplement. Yeah, exactly. I
I
think,
mean, we've mentioned like berberine before. So,
yeah,
berberine is one of them, but like, just because you take berberine doesn't mean you can eat a brownie at every meal.
correct.
You still have to focus on the foundations.
And it doesn't really, yeah, I think that people think that. And I know there's a couple of companies that have like berberine supplements with other things, and they're like, take it before a meal and it really lowers your glucose. You can wear a CGM and see for yourself that it is not significant. Is it better? Sure.
I
Like
mean,
one
it
to two
helps,
points
yeah.
to 3 points, great. Anything is helpful, but I think people just think like, oh, all I need to do is take that and it'll be great.
Problem solved. Yeah, no.
It's not. Is it helpful? Yes. But what's really helpful is doing all these little things. And I think that's why people think they need this really shiny thing because they're like, oh, these are kind of little, like, eh. But if you're really consistent, that's going to help. And remember, over time, like give yourself 6 months to a year and then see where is it at now. Because again, you didn't get here overnight. We just didn't.
Yes. It
Yeah.
takes time. And as you work on these pieces, that will also equal the weight loss, and a 5 to 10% reduction in your body weight will improve that insulin sensitivity. So it's all these combinations of pieces that will work really well together to reduce that insulin resistance, help you lose weight, and decrease your metabolic impact with high blood pressure, dyslipidemia issues, chronic inflammation, fatty liver. All of these things can be decreased when you focus on the insulin
Blood.
resistance side of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Making yourself more insulin sensitive. Like, am I listening to the insulin that my body is making? Total rabbit hole that we won't get into, and I'm going to leave it here, is if you also have high triglycerides, I would really try to focus on that because that's causing a lot of inflammation, making it easier to store fat, promoting that fat storage, making your body not listen to insulin. Everyone will say, oh, just stop eating saturated fat. I would say, or you could increase your omega-3, which then goes down the rabbit hole of why we should be decreasing omega-6.
Yes. And eating
Anywho,
monounsaturated.
okay. Because one thing that helps that we know is omega-3, but you know what else helps to increase omega-3, or that ratio is decreasing omega-6. So again, I'm not demonizing omega-6, but I'm just telling you it could help.
Yes.
That is it.
And this is why we have a hard time staying on topic because there's so many holes that we can get into.
Yeah. And there is,
Nutrition is like Swiss cheese. I don't know.
yeah, it really is. And everyone is so different. And there's a lot of different, like sometimes it's like a puzzle. It's like, okay, nothing is working just by itself in the body. There's a
Yeah.
lot of things going on. And so it's like, okay, well, like it's like one of
Mhm.
those, like, the little like memes where it's like the board.
Yeah. Well, it's even so the TikToker name's Janelle. Have
Mhm.
you seen her stuff?
I don't know.
So she got famous like 2020 for, I mean, she was doing like bell pepper sandwiches. Everyone went crazy. She was doing the keto diet. Then she did macro counting. And then she's like, I think she has a cookbook or something, but she sells something on TikTok.
Yes.
She's a wellness influencer.
Yes. I know who you're talking about.
So last week she came out and she's on a GLP-1 and people are pissed about it.
I love it.
And so many people are making all these reels, like making fun of her and saying she's a liar, she hides all these things. And like I genuinely feel bad for her,
Yeah.
but I'm also like, why do you care so much about what she is doing? Since when is it a requirement to share every single thing you're doing? Because
Mm-hmm.
all of these wellness influencers, like no one is telling the full story. And if you honestly think the GLP-1 is the only thing that has gave her results, meanwhile she's sharing her high protein meals now. Like she shares a lot. She does the workouts. Like she's doing the things that go with the GLP-1.
Yeah.
Like you this is the
She
problem
has
is that
shared for a long time. She hasn't been on a GLP-1 that long. Like, you go back and you see her journey of like, she
yeah.
lost weight, she put on muscle, like she was doing the things. She just, I don't know if she goes into the detail of why she started using another tool, but just because somebody needs an extra tool to help them with something doesn't mean that what they're doing doesn't work. Does that make sense?
And you can't expect like to eat the same and do the exact same everything as someone to get the same results
No, because we're
either.
all so different. Yeah.
And this is where I want to just be like, stop comparing your journey to other people. Maybe if you would focus on what you're doing, you would have those results.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I see is we are always looking for an excuse. Like, oh, there's a reason why I'm not losing weight. I'm broken because I have this.
Yeah.
And then so you're like, oh, look, like they wouldn't have been able to lose weight either. They had to do this. It's like this weird thing. It's like, just,
Hmm.
you're not broken. You just need to do the things. And if you need to bring on another tool, great. Everyone's body is so different. But
And
yeah,
stop
I do.
demonizing GLP-1s.
I was like,
It's
man,
a little ignorant to think that way, I think,
well,
now, if
there's
you look into
plenty.
the
I'm going to tell you
research.
from working with people outpatient, there is plenty of people on high doses of GLP-1s who are not losing any weight because they don't do any of the other shit that we're talking about.
Yeah.
100%. It will not just, you have to be doing other work as well, or eventually it stops working or it just doesn't work at all. Like, yeah, I wonder where she felt the need to share that.
I think people have been commenting like, "Oh, I think she started GLP-1 because people started noticing her changes, but she didn't really
Yeah.
share anything that specifically changed." I don't know, but my
I can
opinion
always
is,
tell, like, I can always tell when people are, oh, you probably started like a decent dose of a GLP-1, but like to each his
mhm.
own. Yeah.
And like if you're using it the correct way, I'm just like, who cares? Quit getting stuck in this compare. You don't need to know everyone's life story. I mean, could it have been helpful if she shared it? Maybe, but again, who cares? This is her weight loss journey. And guess what? When you're following someone on social media, they're not going to show you all the things
No,
they
it's
do.
the good
I think,
things.
yeah. And even like you and I don't think we intentionally leave anything out, but like you don't know our entire lives either.
Yeah. No. Nor does it really matter too. And I try
Exactly.
to
Yeah,
tell
that's why
people that
we
all the
don't know.
time. Yeah, because I have a lot of women that are like, they really are putting in the work and they have insulin resistance or they have PCOS or they have something and they're like, man, it's just, I feel like I'm going to be cheating if I start a low dose GLP-1. And I'm like, that's not cheating. You're doing all the things. Metabolically, your body needs a little bit of help. Like that has nothing to do with some other person who is completely metabolic healthy and they're just deciding they don't want to clean up their diet and being like, oh, I only did it because of this. Like, no, we're
Hmm.
all different and it's not cheating. That's the other thing. I mean, now it's all about
Yeah.
intention, right? I guess you could say some people are cheating, sure. But I feel like if you're stressed out about like, I don't want to cheat, you probably are not cheating
Hmm.
in that, how
Yeah,
you're looking at it, you know?
exactly. It's just time we stop getting mad at other people. Focus, give yourself that inward focus and decide, okay, what can I do in this moment to help myself? And just stop blaming outside things. Stop blaming the government. Stop blaming
Naming all the
you don't
things.
have money for a GLP-1 or this person has more time. Like
Yeah, because that's
that's
not
why
going to
you're
get you
stuck.
anywhere. That's not gonna
It's
get
really not.
you anywhere. All that stress is contributing.
Stop blaming it on the prices of eggs. Like,
Come on, man. Like, yeah, just do the basics, be consistent, see what happens. I always tell people, like, give something 4 to 6 months. And everyone's like, oh my God, that's so long. Well, like 4 to 6 months goes by so fast. Okay. And how many years have
it
you been
does.
wanting to change? Like, what's the worst thing that happens? You feel better? Like, just see if I
Oh.
do these consistent things for 4 to 6 months, something is going to improve. Maybe you
Hmm.
need longer than that. Most people do, but something is going to improve.
So if you suspect some insulin resistance going on, I mean, you can get some lab work done, get your insulin tested, get your glucose tested, get your A1C tested, and your CRP probably. Those are good ones to start with to see where you're at there.
Yeah.
And I would say number one, focus on fiber. That's actually really helpful for blood sugar balancing. Focus
Mhm.
on that, movement throughout the day, building muscle, and that those are good places to start.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
And then if you were
everyone.
like wanting to wear a CGM and want to know what the heck you're looking at, work with, I mean, you could work with us, just you could work with someone that knows how to interpret that
Yeah.
data and how to help you. Because that could be
Hmm.
overwhelming if you don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. So, hope this was helpful, and we will be back next week with a brand new episode.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.